is the minors, the breakout stars,
early on in day 3 of the draft, the Pirates called,
the wild moments, and the prospects you need to know about.
A sub-3 ERA in both single and double A.
This is Minor League Weekly, your inside look at the future of the game. And away we go with episode number 15 of Minor League Weekly on the Minor League Minute YouTube channel. We are Minor League Weekly on Spotify, Minor League Weekly on Apple Podcasts, and of course across our various social media platforms that you can find linked in the description below. I'm Cory Sparks, joined by Johnny Samp, who's been a member of our channel for a while, but it's his first time on the podcast. Johnny, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yeah, excited to have you on. And Jacob, I know Johnny got the 36 inches of snow. You've had some tornado warnings over there. It is not your first rodeo. Tornado warnings or watch? I don't want to editorialize here. What's the weather update over there in the east?
It's a warning right now. They were talking about a potential watch, but well, I guess watch warning. It's not the most serious, at least not that I've been updated yet. So whether I think that's a watch and a warning's the most serious. Not a meteorologist, if you can't tell by my descriptions here, but it's just a watch, I guess. Yeah, nothing too serious. But yeah, it's a lot of rain today.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm sure Johnny would trade some of the snow for rain. You said 36 inches before we started the
I don't know.
show?
That might be an exaggeration, but
I wouldn't
it
doubt
feels
it.
like it. I mean, there is a lot out there. It was up to my hips the other day. I'm not a huge guy, but I was trying to walk through the snow to grab a shovel, and I was just sinking in a snow drift I was in, and it was all the way up to my waist, so it's pretty deep, and I don't think the birds are real happy right now. I don't think so, and I'm not real happy about it just because it's a lot of snow, a lot of traffic, a lot of different things going on.
I brought this up to some buddies earlier today. The birds are probably like, dude, what the hell? Like, I just came back. It was supposed to be nice out. Baseball's going on. WBC, which we'll talk about in a moment. And now they get back up here to be greeted by various amounts of snow. We had the warning, but it wasn't awful. Like, the car wasn't in horrible shape. So glad I'm not too far north. Johnny's in the Green Bay area, for your guys' knowledge. So northern Wisconsin and the UP in general got hit pretty hard. Hopefully that is the last dash. And hopefully WBC play and spring training play going on as a sign of things to come, warmer weather. We have to address the elephant in the room about the World Baseball Classic. First of 2 games in the semifinal round was last night, and it was, at the time of this recording, the USA against the red-hot Dominican Republic led the entire tournament in home runs hit by a wide margin, and the US of A wins 2-1, but the hot-button topic of this one is Mason Miller's breaking ball that dipped what looked to be below the zone, rung up for strike 3 with a runner on third and 2 outs. That's how the game ends. One side has a sour taste in their mouth. The other one is going to play the winner of Italy and Venezuela, which is going on right about now, actually, as we are live here at 7:05 Central Time. I want to pass the ball around here, Johnny, and we'll start with you. What did you think of the third strike call in the World Baseball Classic semifinal contest last night?
Obviously, there's some discourse on that discussion, and I've been intermingling in that. But what happened, comes down to the bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, runners on, ducks on the pond, and you let a close pitch go by. Now, the umpire had a low zone, I would argue, all game long. I mean, Juan Soto got rung up pretty low. A couple other guys were seen swinging at low stuff just because that umpire did have a shifted zone, I believe, down a little bit. And it was just the unfortunate habit that, you didn't swing the bat. You didn't get the bat off the shoulder. At least fend it off. If you think it's questionable, at least just try to fend it off. You don't really have to do anything with it. And I know this is kind of controversial with the ABS coming into the MLB and that sort of thing, which I'm not necessarily a huge fan of. I kind of like the old school style calling, having those little arguments and not always going to a challenge on everything. But I certainly think if I was, little league stuff like that, this umpire's got that low zone. You got to swing at it. You got to at least put a barrel on it and just fend it off just for one more pitch. Maybe something comes a little bit higher. Maybe not. but you can't let that one go by. And the other thing was, now, if you watch the video, he strikes out. He walks straight towards his bench before even knowing that he was called out. So I think he thought it was a strikeout, but then everybody's like, "Oh, that was low, that was low," and then obviously the discourse continues, and he should have been walking. Most guys would be walking towards first if they thought that was a ball, but he kind of put his hands on his head and went kind of walked towards right towards his bench, and I think that's essentially what kind of gave me that was a called strike most of the game. So it was just a situation.
Totally fair. Jacob, what do you got?
Yeah, I think kind of to piggyback off of Johnny, I think it was a bad call, but just to kind of go with that, yeah, it was called, and really that arm side to the catcher, that bottom left corner was called. There was a few pitches from Camilo Duvall, which was called a strike. That was a little like maybe a ball outside the Fox Sports box that you had there that you could kind of see. So yeah, I do agree that is the zone. I think really the biggest outrage comes from the setting, comes from the time specifically, and how, an ending of a game. That's where a lot of these big calls have gotten the most outrage. We're not talking about, you see the umpire scorecard, which I love, when it's baseball season, you have those umpire scorecard, you see who's favoring, you see where the little dots are for the calls. So, if we're talking about even that Juan Soto pitch, it wasn't the final out. It was still a close game. I think it also has overshadowed all of the opportunities that the DR had in that game with runners on. You have the image that's circulating the internet where it has the 4 opportunities where they had with the bases loaded, runner on first and second, second and third, second base, 1 out in that game. So yeah, I think it's a bad call. I think it's a bad call because of the timing of it. That's for me. So I don't know. The ABS, I think people are happy that it's coming to the big leagues.
So to Johnny's point, I do want to give all umpires, I would not be able to do what they're doing, right? The white box that we get the privilege of seeing, that's usually from where the elbows dip down to about knee level, they don't have that. And they're crouched behind the plate, which I would honestly argue is not the best angle. The best angle is home high. You obviously are not home high. I'm sorry. It's your batter's eye. The view that we get to see from home. Unless there's some tail on the pitch and you can't really tell where it crossed the plate, which is where I think that last pitch came in. To your point, Jacob, I texted you when Skeensy got pulled with over half of the ball game left, essentially saying 2 runs is not going to be enough against this Dominican Republic team, and occasional botched call or not, they didn't capitalize. That is the reality of it. Sometimes you have to make your own luck, and I think it was a bad call too, but I have respect for what Johnny's saying in that this zone did not drastically change from the 8th inning on. It is the same zone that essentially was being called, albeit a faulty one, if you look at the umpire scorecard all game long. Boys, where I get worried, and I don't think any of us want this to happen, is we're living in a world where the ABS challenge system's about to enter Major League Baseball for the foreseeable future this year. This situation can still happen under the current rules. If a team runs out of challenges and you disagree with the call in the bottom of the 9th and you have nothing left, you still get the same result. You still get the same outrage. You still get the exact same result of the baseball game. And then you still get the Twitter warfare that has been the last 24 hours. And you still get the umpire scorecards that are going to come out, because we're going to live in a society, for a bit at least, where you can't challenge every pitch. It's essentially use them or lose them, or when you get wrong, you lose them. I get worried that scenarios like tonight, where everybody's watching, a ticket to the final is on the line, and there's a wrong call, I get worried that moments like that may lead us to a full-time robo-ump atmosphere, which I don't think anybody wants. I enjoy the human element as good as the next person. Johnny, I'm assuming you don't want that, right? We're on different sides of the aisle with this topic, but if this keeps happening, I get worried that the governing bodies in varying professional baseball leagues are going to go, let's just take blue out of it and do our own thing, which I don't want to see.
Well, how far can you perfect it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, like these guys are trained, they got good eyes. Now, I would argue a low strike is the hardest one to call.
Yeah.
Um, because of how the umpire is positioned, like you said, behind the catcher, standing up, kind of crouching, and you got the catcher's body in front of you. The catcher's now moving that glove up to act like it's one's fluid motion. At one time, they were always framing things, but now they're just putting things right into the zone. They're training for that, and so they know how to do that, and it's going to screw people up. And just like defensive pass interference in the NFL, it happens. It's gonna make you upset, but you got to deal with it. I think, like you said, you don't want an all robotic. I mean, you know how fun that would be. You can't heckle a robot
Yeah.
as a
Start
fan.
barking at the screen.
It's not gonna get upset with you. You know, you can't be that guy in the crowd that's yelling and barking out things that make no sense, but you're just barking it just to bark it to a robot. That's not gonna work. That'd be no fun. It would take I think the real spirit out of the game.
Yeah, I'm right there. It's that the fine line. I think we may have talked about it on this show once or twice before about that fine line of kind of crossing over into that full robo side. We're kind of entering that middle ground here where it's, you have the technology that's coming in as an aid. You still have that limit on it where you have the human element still with the umpires, with the different positions. But yeah, how far is it going to teeter on that pendulum is the question. Hopefully they find that middle ground. They find where it's, utilized well while also implementing this system that allows a more benefit to the players in the game. So yeah, again, I'm just gonna go back to that. I don't like the NBA system where they're standing around the review for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. If there's a way where again they can have the challenge system and not make the game longer, which the MLB has really tried to, and all baseball leagues for that matter, have tried to go against in recent years. That's again the fine line that I think they're also going to have to walk.
Yeah, and to Johnny's point, the concept of framing, if we did go full robo ump one day, goodbye. Your Blake Mitchells of the world who are really good at kind of sharpening and expanding the strike zone, you're never going to see someone frame again. So I hope we don't see the day that there's a robo ump, but when I see an egregious call like that on a national stage and we get to go and see that it was a couple balls below the zone, I do agree the approach should have been adjusted. These guys are professionals in between the lines too. But I get scared that maybe one day that day comes. The Players Association would not let it happen, specifically the catchers. There are guys whose livelihood is framing, so I don't think it would happen. But I think the conversation starts to come up there. And we're also going to have a little discourse here about the best spring breakout matchup. So spring breakout, it's a way to showcase the up-and-coming prospects of all 30 organizations, and they go head-to-head with one another. So myself, Johnny, and Jacob actually found 3 different matchups that we only have pools right now. It's 40-man pools. They're going to get cut down to rosters from 23 to 27 players before long. Teams are starting to do it already. But we zeroed in on some of the best matchups. And I'll kick us off really quick with not the sexiest one, but White Sox versus Dodgers. Really want to see Chicago's top prospect in Brady Montgomery. Started spring training out with a bang. He had a homer and a triple against my spring training Cubs and Johnny's. I'm hoping to see Billy Carlson, voted by MLB execs as having one of the best gloves, regardless of position in this prospect class. Also, very curious to see how the White Sox pitching prospects, if we see a Hagen Smith or a Noah Schultz, do against Josue DePaula or Zaire Hope. It's not the matchup to watch, but guys, I also think it's intriguing because it's 2 of the best farm systems in baseball, but their big league clubs could not be more different. You have a team that went 41 and 121 2 years ago, and you have back-to-back World Series champs, a team that spends more than almost anybody. So I'm intrigued to see how their farm systems approach having a top-tier farm system and how some of these top-tier prospects go toe-to-toe with one another. So White Sox-Dodgers, that's got my eye here coming up in a few days.
All right, and then I got the Brewers and Athletics. Now I think this is going to be an interesting one to see. Obviously, you're going to see top prospect Jose Mate going to be entering. Well, he's to be determined, but you could see him playing for those Brewers team. It's compared a lot to Jackson Chourio, who's currently playing for Venezuela in the semifinal tonight. He's currently in the AA, so it could be interesting. Another prospect within the Brewers organization that could make some noise is Luis Pena. He's also an infielder, so they do have a lot of shortstop talent, a lot of middle infield talent, and he is currently with the Timber Rattlers. But experts are expecting him to jump upward within the minor leagues and make more noise up there. And then on the other side for the A's, a big name is going to be Leo DeVries, who's currently with the Midland Rockhounds. I mean, he's just 19 years old, and he's expected to make his pro debut. And then other ones is going to be like a solid rookie like Gage Jump, going to be playing in those games and for the A's. But again, like you said, two different organizations. Now the Brewers really talented with a little budget. A's very poor with very same kind of budget. I mean, like as a pro level team, the Brewers have been finding a way to do things, and it drives me nuts that they're able to find ways to get wins. As a Cubs fan, it annoys the bugs out of me, but I have to give credit where it's due. You just had Jackson Cherio. You have a number of guys that just continue to come up. Mizorowski, another one that came through the system, proven to be very talented, and they continue to bring talent from, overseas. They have a lot of international talent and right here in the U.S. So it's really good to see both sides. It'll just be more of a question of how the A's are doing, because the A's have not made any noise since probably early 2000s. Really haven't been a real strong squad since Billy Bean's era, and they're just trying to find a way to get back into the conversation and not get voted out as losing his team every year, but them and the White Sox. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they do.
Couple of good systems.
Yeah, some good system there. A lot of shortstop talent there, and infield talent in those games. Guys, I think my pick's a little combination of both of yours in terms of the teams, the talent. I'm gonna go Tigers Pirates on March 20th. One of the last games at night. I mean, let's talk about two star-studded systems. There'll probably be no Connor Griffin and Kevin McGonigal, but it's still must watch as both of those guys are battling for opening day jobs. I mean, the two teams combined for 9 guys in the top 100 list. 9, 5 and 4, and 7 if you don't include the number 1 and the number 2, Griffin and McGonigal. Max Clark as Merlin Valdez, Password Garcia, Josue Briseño, a few names that come to mind that are listed on the pool. Guys to watch on each team. For the Tigers, it's Max Clark. He's getting a lot of headlines for some of the wrong reasons here in the spring. He's only batted 111 with 5 strikeouts. He's battling people online who are coming at him with his swagger, with his errors in the field, his chain as Cory's gesturing there. So, I mean, this is an opportunity. This is a showcase for him. I mean, he's got to prove himself. He'll probably start in AA. Should it be in AAA by season's end? But the confidence, there's a fine line between confidence and cockiness, and he's still dealing with that and finding that with his own personality, which I love. He's just got to tone it down a little bit. For the Pirates, Seth Hernandez, number 29 prospect in baseball, number 6 overall in the Pirate system, set for rookie ball. I mean, you have Barco, you have Bubba Chandler, Jared Jones, Paul Skeens, and now Hernandez, who will be everyone's first view of the flamethrower if he pitches. And I mean, there'll be some nerves for sure, but he's another piece in a future of a Pirates rotation that is just scary to look at and scary to imagine if there's a way that they can keep those guys around.
Hot button topic is whether or not McGonigal and Griffin debut in the majors. They're making a really big push for it. I don't know if you guys saw this. I'm going to attempt to show it on YouTube here. This is yeah, that's not great. That's Connor Griffin. What I tried to show you is Connor Griffin introducing himself and saying he's looking forward to this season in a video posted by the AA affiliate of the Pirates, the Altoona Curve. This was just him standing in the locker room 2 days ago going, "Hey, Curve fans," I'm paraphrasing, but really excited for 2026. I think we accomplished a lot last year, and go Pirates or go Curve. Looking forward to what's coming up. A lot of people are speculating maybe that's his first stop. We'll see. If he doesn't even go in the spring breakout game, I don't think that impacts a ton. They're going to try and preserve a really good talent. But, yeah, I keep bringing it up. I don't know the exact day, but it's going to be sometime mid-April, second or third week, where if the Pirates wait until after that day to put Griffin out there, they get another year of control before arbitration. And that is how teams like to bring up Johnny's point, Brewers, Athletics, Pirates, Tigers just got in the arbitration battle with Tarek Skubal. That's how they operate. How can I keep my superstar not only in our jersey for a very long time, but for as cheap as possible? Because those guys are all essentially, not all, but most of them are on league minimum contracts for their first 3 years. And there's Connor Griffin saying what's up to the Altoona Curve fan base. What was this? 2 days ago. So we'll keep an eye on that. I would love to see him debut on opening day. He'd be the first teenager to do it in that capacity since Ken Griffey Jr. There's a reason that we haven't seen that happen since Ken Griffey Jr. Great 3 games. I think I had the one with the least juice. So good on both of you for picking Brewers, Athletics, Tigers, Pirates. I'm excited for White Sox, Dodgers. It just feels like those 2 other ones have a little more top-end appeal to them. Obviously, the Sox have a handful of top 100s, so do the Dodgers, but you got some top 5, top 10 guys there. We're going to move on over to risers, and I'll start with someone who was just brought up a few seconds ago, Bubba Chandler for the Pirates. After being a faller a week or 2 ago, I have him as a riser. Some critics, myself included, were pinging him for overthrowing in his early starts, clocking over 100 miles an hour in late February, and not having a ton of command. His last appearance not long ago, 5 innings, 1 hit, 1 earned run, 8 strikeouts to 1 walk. Keep in mind, this was against one projected Braves starter, and the Braves are becoming more and more dismantled as we speak since the Profar news. But there's a real-world scenario where the Pirates rotation looks like this. Skeens, Bubba Chandler, Mitch Keller, who had a really nice season. The decisions just weren't on his side. And possibly a healthy Jared Jones, all in the same rotation, 1, 2, 3, 4. Bats were a big point of improvement, but I think you also have to keep a strength. And having somebody like Bubba Chandler, who cut his teeth in the majors last year, that's a huge advantage. So stock up on Bubba Chandler, boys.
All right, I'm going a little south of you, and we're going over to Miami, the party city right now for the World Baseball Classic.
There we go.
And mine's going to be Robbie Snelling. Not a lot of people have heard of him. He's fallen down in the prospect ranks, but he had an impressive showing in one of his games earlier this year where he had to face some of the biggest names in all baseball against the Mets team. So it was in February, and he managed to sit down Marcus Semien, Juan Soto, and Bo Bichetti. 1, 2, 3. I think it was within 10 pitches. So ground balls, things like that. But he's apparently attacking the zone at a high rate, and he has a lot of confidence in what he's doing. And he's one of those guys that really wants to take that next step to the big stage. Just maybe not other people are seeing it quite yet, but I think throughout the season, he's going to prove himself. He's going to keep attacking the zone at a high rate. Yes, there's going to be mistakes made. There always is, but if you throw one in the middle to Juan Soto, it's pretty risky. But if you paint the corners a little bit and get him on a ground out, get him on, like that low strike call yesterday, he can go down too, just like anybody else. So I'm really looking for Robbie Snelling out of the Miami Marlins system here to make some noise this season.
I do want to say one thing building off that, Johnny, and that's a great call. The door is wide open for him based on how the Marlins are doing business right now. They just traded Edward Cabrera to the Cubs for their top prospect, Owen Casey. Sandy, depending on how this team's doing come trade deadline time, could be one of the hot market names. So all of a sudden, if Cabrera's out and Sandy's out, someone's got to pitch for this big league team. Robbie Snelling, Thomas White, another name too. Those guys are going to have so much opportunity to really cut their teeth in the big leagues.
Be a lot of fun.
Yeah, guys, I'm going to close. We're going to do all risers, all arms this week here on the show. I'm going to go with circling back to the team you mentioned, Cory, the Braves, who I put a picture in their faller a week ago, 2 weeks ago, with Drew Hackenberg. I'm going to go with J.R. Ritchie and Didier Fuentes, the 2 right-handers in the Braves' top 5. Ritchie threw 4 shutout innings out of the pen against the Phillies on Sunday, showcased all of his pitches. Fuentes shoved against the Yankees, did not allow a run in 3 innings of work. Ritchie and 4 games in spring training, has a 2.25 ERA, 1 start, 14 strikeouts. Fuentes is not allowed to run, just in a smaller sample size in just 5 innings. But we've talked so much about the Braves, about their pitching, their injuries. They already have Spencer Schwellenbach on the IL, Chris Sale. It's, you're chewing your fingernails going into each season of, when is he going to be ready? When is he going to be out there for how long as well? Spencer Strider just came back from a major injury. So to have that security, maybe Richie and Fuentes are both of those kind of middle relief guys that you can, it's a rough day at the office. You can plug in, and those can swing ball games when you have that middle reliever that can go in and give you 4 innings, keep the team to only 1 run, 2 runs, allows your offense that even with Profar subtracted still has Acuna, still has Riley, still has Olsen that can keep you in the game. So those are a few guys that have really proven well in the spring, and the Braves could call them up sooner rather than later, especially for that bullpen that you're trying to get to Iglesias and Suarez. You're counting outs, and those are guys that can help you count those outs.
Amazing evaluation there, right? You have your door slammers, but you just alluded to it, Jacob. That rotation took us for a ride last year. You did not know what that 5-man rotation was going to look like. Spencer Strider took us for a ride last year. We were just chomping at the bit, waiting to get him back. His first handful of starts, fastball velo was very down. He was not commanding his pitches. He was getting lit up all over, and then he finally did settle in towards the latter stages of the season. You can't rely on that here. You need your prospects to fire in and fill in on that 5 or 6-man rotation. We'll see what they want to go with, especially considering you've got some gems in the back end of that bullpen. It's just, I like how you said it, counting down the outs, getting there. And that's going to be easier said than done based on the health of these starters in years past, specifically 2025. But when you have guys like Fuentes and Richie in there that could possibly come up and fill in and eat innings for you, inning eaters, it's one of the main things this Braves team is going to need in 2026. That's really, really important. All right, guys, before we go any further, I do want to shout out a company that we're huge fans of here at Minor League Minute, and that is going to be, and has been, and will be through March and now April, JustBats.com. If you or somebody you know is looking for a bat ahead of the baseball or the softball season, this place beats your typical store just down the corner. Their team does customized engravings, regrip services, which you can see on the screen if you're watching on YouTube right now, and can even put on knob stickers to add a little extra pizzazz to your new bat. This team is full of people who love the game of baseball and softball, just like you and I do. They've got the right equipment for it, and nothing says owning a new bat like putting that customizable touch on it with the JustBats.com team. Head to the link in the description to learn more about them today. We make it super easy for you. And now it's time for our fallers. So, stock down. I'm going to actually go back to Milwaukee, who's gotten a lot of compliments on this show. And this isn't their fault, but Logan Henderson, a top 5 prospect for the Brewers, has elbow soreness, as it was reported a few days ago. This is linked to a bigger picture. Their opening day starter gig may be wide open. Quinn Priester is on the injured list with some nerve pain. He's going to be shut down through opening day. Brandon Woodruff is still ramping up and has emphasized on numerous occasions he does not want to rush back because he knows how fragile that body is at this point of his career, and he wants a full, healthy season, or as close to it as he can get. Henderson is fighting some elbow irritation. Freddie Peralta, the ace for the last couple of years, gone via the Mets trade. All of a sudden, a former top prospect who threw 104 in the playoffs last year, but struggled mightily with command at times in Jacob Mizorowski, looks like it's your seat, buddy. It hasn't been announced yet, but that's where my vote's going. My other vote honestly would have gone to Logan Henderson because in a small sample size, he had a sub-2 ERA, only had a 2-pitch mix, but he's added a curveball in the offseason and got me really excited as someone who could be a stabilizer on this team. Now he's got some elbow irritation. So the faller is Logan Henderson having this elbow soreness, but really it's the status of the Brewers' rotation. Luckily for them, the MLB season is a marathon and not a sprint because the first 100 meters is going to look a little rough.
All right. And I'm going to the state to the west of that, west of Milwaukee here, and going to go over to Minnesota and talk about Walker Jenkins, one of the top prospects within the Twin system. He's dealing with a hamstring injury once again. He's been a continuing rotation on the injury report list. but he's got expectations beyond what you would expect. I mean, he's being compared to like Joe Mauer Power and Byron Braxton. And so he's got really high credentials going with him. Now that's within the Twins organizations. They finished second to last season. So they're looking to pick up some pace on the offensive end. And there's only one way to do it, and that's by finding some good bats. And, got to take out the Guardians, got to take out Detroit. They got to find those wins and then, work through the middle ground. But I think as Twins fans, I'm not holding my breath right now because he is still young, and the hamstring is something that can be repaired and worked with and that sort of thing. But if this continues on, this could flag some red lights, and I could see him falling further down the ranks as a prospect because he's just not getting on the field and playing as much.
Well, Johnny, thank you for letting me know. One of us may have included said individual in a top 10 list to keep an eye on that we might be taking a look at coming soon. So thank you for informing me. Hypothetically,
yeah, if that were to happen, good on Johnny for bringing that up.
Yes. Yeah. So we've got the risers. We've got the risers here of all the pitchers, and we've got the fallers of the injuries that have taken place. And I'm going to add one to your guys' favorite team that just happened. I mean, Seiya Suzuki going out of the game against in the Japan-Venezuela game, got hurt trying to steal second base, sliding in, left the game, and did not return. But I mean, this would be a huge loss, I think, for the Cubs. I mean, we talked about what the outfield looks like outside of their main three back when we were doing the farm feature for this team. And you got PCA in center, you got Happ in left. But if Suzuki misses any kind of time, if this knee situation lingers, you're talking about Kevin Alcantara, discussions maybe about Matt Shaw moving around into left. So I mean, that's regardless, it might get a little spooky. I know Craig Counsell is yet to kind of say anything quite yet as he returns to camp here shortly. But again, hoping for your guys' sake, hoping for Suzuki's sake that it as well, and the Cubs' sake that it's not a lingering issue. But yeah, it's something to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, he was hobbling a little bit after he got up, which didn't make me
I know
very
it wasn't
happy.
good.
It didn't look great. I knew as soon as he got up and was grimacing, I'm like, they're going to shut him down. These teams are constantly, all 30 MLB teams are constantly in communication with the various countries, especially with pitchers. Like, hey, I really don't want him to go over this inning limit. I understand if push comes to shove, he has to. But same with these hitters. If they're watching TV, the Cubs saw what happened. Craig Counsell, Jed Hoyer, they want to know the status of him. And so I'm sure there were prior conversations. We're in an era where insurance is being implemented into these events too, where it's if he's bruised up in any way, shape, or form, please pull him. Seiya's agent is probably saying that too, because not only does this suck for the Cubs, this is a contract year for Seiya Suzuki, and he's coming off a career year. So you want to talk about a guy's value going from, he just had a 30 home run, 100 plus RBI season, somehow was not an all-star, which I still don't understand. Now, all of a sudden, in a contract year, whatever your value of him was, if he ends up missing a handful of weeks or he doesn't look like himself throughout this year, you're worried about his financial future, or at least, how good his contract could end up being. And then the bigger picture, you hit on it, right, Jacob? Like, Happer's in left, contract year as well, by the way. Alcantara is really struggling with strikeout issues, and that has not stopped in spring training and right. So maybe Shaw is your Swiss Army knife as a former first rounder. But it'd be a heck of a lot easier to say, yeah, we have Seiya Suzuki we can throw out there, or at the very least be our DH while Moises is figuring things out, because we know he's going to hit 30 bombs and drive in 90, 95. Now we don't know, because on national television, he came up hobbling. So, yeah, my worry meter's at like a 7. I'll be honest. It's pretty high. Johnny, what do you and I are Cubs fans. Your first reaction to when you saw that and where your panic meter's at? Yeah, 6? 6 or 7?
6, just because, like you said, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah. So if they have to shut him down for April, sure. But
fine.
But that outfield's not as plentiful as it once was before a certain Owen Casey trade. So I really want to see him come back and be strong and be healthy, and hopefully that hobble was just that, and it's not something that bleeds forward. But yeah, as you brought up, Jacob, that's the injury train. We've brought up the WBC in a couple capacities, the Seiya injury, the ABS conversation that's already bled into Major League Baseball. It's going to serve as our fourth segment here as we talk about top prospects who upped their stock. So guys who haven't graduated from it yet, you can cheat and take a major leaguer if you want, like a Nolan McLean, who's going to have a really big redemption opportunity coming up between either himself in Italy or himself in Venezuela as this game's going on. I'm going to start with a former first overall pick for the 2024 class in Travis Bazzana. Already had a hunch this guy was kind of toying with his swing and tinkering with his mechanics before, and therefore wasn't worried about hitting 290. And again, he didn't do anything crazy. He went 3 of 16. But the moment, specifically for Bazzana and a country in Australia who's trying to build out their baseball culture, he had a clutch homer in a 3-0 win over Chinese Taipei. That showed me this kid is made for the moment, and he could be a cornerstone in the uprising of baseball relevancy for Australia. They have the ABL. I have a buddy who's called over there before. Their season just wrapped up a month or two ago. But that is a sport that is growing. It's not the main focus in Australia right now. A great way to get interest is taking down somebody like Chinese Taipei. And Travis Bazzana being on your team could help a little bit too. So happy for Travis. They didn't make it out of pool play. They were very close to doing so, which no one expected. But good moment for the former number 1 overall pick.
All right, I'm going to swing it back to the States here. I'm going to go Garrett Cleavinger. Just because he's a guy who hasn't had his name out there quite yet, really kind of quiet within the Tampa Bay Rays system, and hasn't really made his name, like I said. Still fighting for that top spot, but he did pitch phenomenally backing up Paul Skeens in the game against Mexico, which was really shows, that he can handle the big stage, and he can handle an international rowdy stage at that, because those games are a little bit more rowdy, I would say, than your average MLB game, especially with certain countries there. They bring a lot of passion, they bring a lot of fire, and you just got to be able to handle it. So good on him. I hope that raises his stock, and maybe he can get out of the Rays system, because I don't think anybody wants to be in that system right now.
He was solid behind Skeens, man. Like, I think that's a good one that gets overshadowed. Like, we know all the big firepower names. Sorry to jump you, Jacob, but for him to shut the doors there in a couple of games against Mexico and against Brazil that were a little closer than I think we expected.
Yeah,
for some
I mean,
parts.
he's been pitching well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I think that fastball has really grown for him. That fastball slider, it's just such a tough lefty when you got a league full of them. And he's going to be another one out of that Rays pen. Him, Griffin, Jacks. That's a sneaky good bullpen that they're forming there in Tampa. I'm going to go back to the Brewers. We're going back to the Brewers here. Going to go with Andrew Fisher, the third baseman for the Italianos, gentlemen. I mean, this guy who's right now with the Timber Rattlers, the high A affiliate, but has really shown himself on the national stage, a part of this lineup with the power. Number 6 prospect right now in the Brewers system, batting .375, 1 home run, 3 RBIs coming into tonight's game against Venezuela. Has been a cog, batting 5th, batting 6th, provided that protection for the Pasquatch and Jack Caglione in the middle of that lineup, and really starting to turn the lineup over. So, I mean, bringing it back to the Brewers, just this infield. Johnny, you mentioned earlier about Pena with Made, Fisher in there that could really stake his claim in the next few seasons as that third baseman. Huge to keep an eye on. And you mentioned guys that may have graduated. I'm going to stick it with that team, Jack Caglione for Italy, what he's been doing, what he's been putting on display, not only with the bat, but also playing a sturdy and strong right field with his arm on display as well. I know there have been some questions about his defense as well, translating to the major league and, of course, now to the national stage.
Yeah, great call. He is on fire. I am intrigued by what the Brewers are going to do with their infield, because it's Made, Pena, Pratt, Fisher, and then they also have Brock Wilken, and Adams in there. That's more than the amount of spots you have for an infield. Bryce Terang's on a contract year. Joey Ortiz has left a lot to be desired with his bat over at shortstop. He's a really good glove and honestly had some good moments for Team Mexico at times. But there's only so many slots to fill, and these guys are etching their way up, especially Mate, Pratt. Pena's going to be at high A to start the year, I believe. Same with Fisher, who looked really good in a small sample size. Running out of places to put them. The Brewers don't usually do the take my top-end prospects, I want a major leaguer thing, but I don't know fully what they're going to do here unless they move some guys to the outfield. Like Jet Williams, another traditional infielder that is going to likely have to go and play some Murph ball out there in left or right field. You have Vaughn at first right now. Don't know how long he'll be there, but he played above his value, so we'll see if Brew City wants to lock him down. But it's funny you brought up Fisher, Jacob. He literally just drew a 5-pitch walk as you were going through that point, and now Italy has loaded the bases. Not to do play-by-play here, but against Venezuela in the top or the bottom of the second. So we'll see what he just did there. He might have sparked something.
Yeah, just calling it, guys. Nostradamus over here, giving some spotlight. Caglione walked right before him too, so
Yep.
I'm the Walkman over here.
Exactly. Nori, I know it's a broken record at this point, but Dante Nori's had a really strong WBC too. Not just that 2 home run game. He's got 5 ribbies now. He's hitting .438 and is on deck with 1 out and the bases loaded here too. On base percentage is around 500. Like, is Italy the biggest shock of the WBC for you guys? Australia shocked me. I had more faith in Venezuela than I think most did, just because I knew about the Churio-Contreras connection. I did not see Team Italy doing this until they played about a game or two in pool play.
I would say yes. I thought they were a soccer country. I didn't think they cared about baseball that much. I'll be honest. Like literally, they come out of the gates and they've shown that they can play ball, and play it at a high level. They're going to be a really interesting team to see growing, because I know it's growing as a sport there. And it's always interesting to see those countries. You've seen in Central America where the sport's growing, they're getting better. And all these teams are starting to pop up and get really competitive with the U.S. Now, the U.S. once was the stronghold of baseball, but now, I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, they might sneak this one out, but they sure have some work to do. Helps when you have Judge and guys like that on your roster, though.
Yeah, it does.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'll go another team that also is Team Puerto Rico. I think there was a lot of discussion around who wasn't on the team with Lindor with his injury, some other guys that had some insurance situations, and probably, of course, not the strongest pool with Canada, with Cuba, with those other teams in there. But to come out of it, the electrifying walk-off win that they had in pool play, they nearly came back and stole it from the Italians in the quarterfinal matchup. So just a shout out to Puerto Rico. I still have the Italians as the biggest surprise, but another team that, oh wow, with the kind of adversity that they faced in the lead up to it, put together a pretty solid tournament nonetheless.
Yeah, good call, right? Like, very often with teams like that where you're expecting to see a Lindor, obviously Javi Baez has worked with them in the past, you're just immediately looking at the team and going, this is a bare roster. They're not going to make it out of pool play this year. They were a handful of sequences away from being in the semifinals where Italy is right now. So, like, let's not forget about that. And, to the point of Italy, I know a lot of U.S. fans right now are probably going, oh, we slayed the demon. We got past the Dominican Republic. Italy's the reason that the U.S. had to basically play spectator to get out of their own group. Like, they had to end up rooting for Italy or a certain run differential scenario where a team was scoring more than 5 for them to even get out ahead of Mexico in the tiebreaker or get out in front of Italy in the tiebreaker, depending on how the game went. But yeah, the Italians haven't lost a game yet. And I think Cervelli's a really smart guy. If you can find something to galvanize a team, even if it's as simple as just making people take espresso shots when they score a run or do something good, sure, man, why not? Like, that's how you build excitement for a team that maybe doesn't have the rich baseball history that Venezuela or the DR or the U.S. have, is you make something. Now, 20 years from now, people are going to be talking about the espresso shots and Pasquantino warming up with his pant leg torn because he didn't replace his pants for the semifinals, or him looking right into the camera and saying, "Hey, Bobby, I hope that you got your hotel key for me. I just helped the U.S. get into the postseason portion of this." I think they're a fun, feisty team. You don't get to be called feisty if you win this game today, though. If they get into the championship, all of a sudden they're a legitimate threat. So yeah, this is probably outside of next week. Last time we're going to talk about WBC play for a bit. If you guys are watching right now and want to hear a little bit more about the politics behind it, Jacob cut up a really nice video from a conversation last week where we were talking about the timing of the World Baseball Classic. You're seeing guys like Tarek Skubal shut down after a start against Great Britain. You're seeing insurance get brought up. We've proposed different timing of this event, maybe closer to mid-season, not to spoil too much, to possibly alleviate some of those issues where guys are already ramped up, but then there's implications because the MLB is not the only professional baseball organization. So that was a conversation between Jacob, Cedric, and myself, about 10-15 minutes, and thought it was something that needed to be talked about with a lot of players declining to play this year. All right, our last segment is in our NCAA block, and it is crazy NCAA scores, which I feel like usually you see this beginning of non-conference play, late February. We're a handful of weeks into the season now, and the one that caught my eye right away is a midweek battle. Cedric, who works in athletics for UMES, who's going to make an appearance here, which I saw, he said midweeks are always crazy, and this is a testament to that. Boston College 26, UConn 19, so 45 total runs, 38 total hits. BC went up 10-0 through 3 frames. Nick Wang then led Boston College on offense. He went 3 for 4, scored 5 runs, and batted 8 runs in. UConn had more of a spread out effort. 4 different players had at least 3 hits on the evening. There was actually one point where UConn was about to be mercy ruled. BC was up 23-9. Tyler Minnick took a ball off the helmet. And the weather wasn't great, so there weren't a whole lot of fans there. It was pretty quiet. And one of the fans started barking out, "Oh, we're hitting people in the head up 14. Okay, nice." So that, I don't know. As someone who worked in summer ball, that just took me back, and I worked in D3 ball too. And Johnny, maybe you can relate to this. Like, it brought me back to where there might not be a ton of fans at a certain event, but you could hear the loud ones chirp because no one else is talking. And it was one of those that I looked at here where weather's not great. There's already been over 30 runs in the game. Some guys just want to get out of there. But Minnick getting hit in the head woke up UConn because then they scored 10 of the next 13 and almost came back to win this. They lost by a touchdown. It was 26-19. So that gave me a couple flashbacks, but 45 runs in this game. I'm excited to see if any other games top it throughout the year.
Yeah, mine's not going to top that quite. Just more perspective on the rank of these teams. The Texas A&M and Oklahoma Sooners, 2 powerhouse schools in baseball going at it, and they finished 12-11 in favor of the Sooners. Obviously, both teams were spread out hitting. There was no real scoring column. That they didn't really separate until that bottom of the 8th. Finally, the Sooners added 1 tally, which was good enough to get them through to the win. But you're talking about this Texas A&M team whose fan base is known to be rowdy as rowdy gets. They got the fifth ball or whatever. They start ranting that, and they just have a good time. And you're able to pull one out as the Sooners, and good for them. I mean, just 2 powerhouse schools going at it, just collabing, and again a high scoring game. 23 runs in the game. I mean, that's quite a bit for any baseball game, but I mean, that looked like a Little League score in a major conference school for baseball. So I was really impressed by that game. Obviously, the Sooners came out on top, and I know the A&M fans, they had a weird week with that celebration in that, what was that, the dugout there?
Yeah.
Where where the guy did I'm not even going to explain it, but you can look it up. You can look it up. Where one guy bends down, the other guy, it's very odd. And I'm not sure quite what it was, but it was just for the boys, I guess, as they say. Which questions the Aggies for me just as a school. Like, what are they doing there? Like, what is going on? But but that was in the news this week, and again, that's good fun. Good fun of baseball.
I just saw that video this morning. Yeah, Jacob, go ahead.
Oh yeah. I'll change the subject. I'll get away from what that was, and I'll shout out Cedric.
Yep.
Excuse me. With what Cory mentioned, talk more about this really essentially segment-defining game that we have here: Stonehill versus the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. Not quite 45 runs, but we'll go with 37. Stonehill winning 20-17. 37 combined runs. 10 pitchers used, 2 pitchers for Stonehill. Their final 2 pitchers were the only ones that didn't allow a run in this game. The game was 13-8 entering the 4th inning. It was 13-8 entering the 4th inning for University of Maryland Eastern Shore had the lead. I mean, even crazier, both teams had more runs than they had hits individually. Stonehill with 20 runs to just 14 hits, UMES with just 17 runs to 16 hits, and both teams had a combined a wild 9 errors, including 6 for the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. Some highlights for Stonehill: their first baseman Nathan Kearney was 5 for 6 with 6 RBIs and a walk, and every starter for the University of Maryland Eastern Shore had at least 1 hit. After that game on Sunday, they played another one, a go-ahead grand slam in the 8th. So yeah, get Cedric a damn lozenge. That's what I'd have to say. Give him a break. Get some tea for him after not only that game, but a weekend of that series.
Cedric's unreal. So for those of you who don't know, or maybe just recently started following us, Cedric Granger is one of 6, and his day job and night job and everything in between job is working for the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, as Jacob just brought up. He's in their athletic department. The guy literally does everything from pioneering studio shows with their various students to get people anchoring experience, working out those scripts, helping them with their graphic stuff, helping with stats on days of games. And then he also calls play-by-play for a 37-run baseball game. And then usually these are in the form of double headers, so then he'll do it again. So just unbelievable stuff. All 3 of us have called play-by-play for different games. What do you do when a team hits around the order multiple times? Because that's probably happened in some of these games where it's like, oh, their 5-hole hitter is up for the 2nd or 3rd time this inning. Do you just like put little arrows back and start blacking things out? Do you split the box in half? I'm just thinking Cedric's scorebook must have been a nightmare for that game. Unreal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy stuff. 37 runs. We got 23 runs between a couple of powerhouses, and then 45 between Boston College and UConn. I saw on Twitter someone was asking if that was a scoregami, and the response from the account was, you would have to find a sicko who has the database with every single college game ever, which is like 50 times as vast as MLB games. So probably not going to be able to find out if that one's happened or not unless you do some extensive research. But those are your crazy NCAA scores. As Jacob alluded to, we have our minor league minute top 10 prospects list. It's going to be launching later this week. We'll go from 10 all the way down to 1. We all did our votes, did a point system, averaged it out, and there's some pretty stark differences from what maybe you'd see in Baseball America or MILB.com, Pipeline Top 100, and what we found when we crashed our heads together and discussed all this. So, yeah, make sure you check those out on our Twitter page. We'll throw that on Instagram and Facebook as well. We are obviously on YouTube, Minor League Weekly on the Minor League Minute YouTube channel, and we will catch you next week for episode number 16. Have a good week. Every story starts somewhere, and in baseball, that somewhere is the minors. The breakout stars,
Early on in day 3 of the draft, the Pirates called.
the wild moments, and the prospects you need to know about.
A sub-3 ERA in both single and double A.
This is Minor League Weekly, your inside look at the future of the game.